Captain Marcus Reed had seen 17 different alien species during his 3 years aboard the diplomatic vessel, Horizon's Edge, but none had unnerved him quite like Princess Lyra of the Valoran Empire. It was not her appearance that troubled him. The Valorans were humanoid enough, with their pale blue skin and silver hair that seemed to shimmer with its own inner light. It was not even her status as the daughter of Emperor Thane, whose fleet controlled 36 star systems along the outer rim. What disturbed Marcus was the way she looked at him. During the initial diplomatic reception, her golden eyes had found him across the crowded observation deck. She had excused herself from a conversation with Ambassador Torres and made her way directly to where Marcus stood near the viewing port. The other officers had scattered like startled birds, leaving him alone to face her approach. "Captain Reed," she had said, her voice carrying the melodic accent of her people. "I have heard remarkable stories about your species. They say humans defeated the Krell Armada with only 12 ships." Marcus had nodded stiffly. "We got lucky, Your Highness." "Luck?" Her eyes had gleamed with something he could not quite identify. "The Krell had 300 warships. Your people call that luck?" He had made his excuses and retreated, feeling her gaze follow him until he disappeared through the bulkhead door. That had been 6 weeks ago. Since then, Princess Lyra had been assigned quarters 3 decks below the officers' section, ostensibly to observe human culture and diplomatic procedures before the Valoran Empire formally joined the Galactic Council. In practice, she seemed determined to observe Captain Marcus Reed. She appeared in the mess hall during his meals. She requested tours of the engine room during his duty shifts. She asked pointed questions during briefings that only he seemed qualified to answer. The crew had started to notice. Whispers followed him through the corridors. Lieutenant Hayes had made an unfortunate joke about royal attention that had earned him 2 weeks of extra duty assignments. Marcus responded by restructuring his entire schedule. He took his meals at odd hours. He delegated bridge duties and spent more time in his quarters reviewing personnel reports. When Princess Lyra requested another tour, this time of the medical bay, he sent Commander Wilson in his place. "She asked for you specifically," Wilson had reported later, frowning. "Seemed disappointed when I showed up instead." Marcus had buried himself deeper in his work. The truth was complicated. Humans had only been part of the galactic community for 8 years. Before that, Earth had been isolated, unaware of the thousands of civilizations that filled the stars. When the Krell had attacked, humanity had been classified as a minor species, expected to fall within weeks. Instead, Earth had fought back with a ferocity that shocked the galaxy. Human pilots had flown damaged ships on suicide runs. Human engineers had jury-rigged weapons from mining equipment. Human soldiers had held positions long after any reasonable species would have surrendered. The war had cost 3 billion lives, but humanity had won. Now the other species watched them with a mixture of fear and fascination. The Valorans, in particular, seemed intrigued by what they called the human paradox. How could a species be so fragile individually, yet so dangerous collectively? How could they be so emotional, yet so calculating in battle? Marcus suspected that Princess Lyra saw him as some kind of curiosity, a specimen to be studied and analyzed. The thought made his skin crawl. He had not fought his way through the Krell War to become an exhibit in some royal collection of interesting aliens. So he avoided her. He changed his routines daily. He assigned other officers to any task that might bring them into contact. Once, he had actually hidden in a storage locker when he heard her voice approaching down a corridor. Lieutenant Hayes had found him there 20 minutes later and had wisely asked no questions. The situation could not last forever. Marcus knew that, but he had hoped to maintain his distance until the princess completed her observation period and returned to Valoran space. Only 3 more weeks. He could manage 3 more weeks. Then came the night she found him in the observation dome. It was 0300 hour ship time. Marcus had confirmed that Princess Lyra was attending a cultural exchange program in the recreation sector. The observation dome should have been empty. He had come here seeking solitude, a chance to stare out at the stars without the weight of duty pressing down on him. He had been there for perhaps 10 minutes when he heard the door open behind him. Captain Reed. Her voice was different, quieter. There was something in it that made him turn around despite his instinct to flee. Princess Lyra stood in the doorway, and she was crying. Valorans cried differently than humans. Their tears were luminescent, leaving trails of soft blue light down their cheeks. In the dim lighting of the observation dome, she seemed to glow with sorrow. Marcus froze. Every protocol he knew, every diplomatic training session he had endured, failed to provide guidance for this situation. "Your Highness," he managed. "Are you hurt? Should I call the medical team? Why do you run from me?" The question came out raw and pained. "What have I done to earn such contempt?" "I don't hold you in contempt," Marcus said automatically. "I've simply been busy with my duties. Do not lie to me." She stepped into the dome, and the door hissed shut behind her. "I am not a fool, Captain. You have avoided me for weeks. You leave rooms when I enter. You hide from my presence. In my culture, such behavior indicates either fear or disgust. Have humans learned to fear the Valorans so quickly? No, of course not. Then you are disgusted by me? No. The word came out more forcefully than he intended. That's not it at all. Then what? She moved closer, her luminescent tears still falling. What have I done to deserve this treatment? I came to your ship hoping to learn, to understand the species that accomplished what no other has managed. I wanted to see what made humans so strong. Instead, I have been rejected and ignored. Tell me why." Marcus felt something crack inside him. Perhaps it was exhaustion. Perhaps it was the genuine pain in her voice. Perhaps it was simply that he was tired of running. "You look at me like I'm special," he said quietly. "Like humans are something extraordinary. We're not. We're just stubborn and too stupid to quit when we should. 3 billion people died fighting the Krell. 3 billion. We didn't win because we were strong. We won because we were desperate and willing to sacrifice everything. There's nothing noble about that. Nothing worth studying or admiring." Lyra had stopped crying. She stared at him with those golden eyes, and for a long moment, neither of them spoke. "You truly believe that?" she finally asked. "Yes, and you are the fool, Captain Reed." Her voice had changed, becoming stronger. "Do you know what the other species say about humans? They say you are reckless. They say you are dangerous. They say you cannot be trusted because you do not know when to surrender. And they are right. But do you know what else they say?" Marcus shook his head. "They say that if they had human allies during their own dark times, their civilizations might not have fallen. They say that human courage, foolish as it may be, is a light in a galaxy that has grown too cautious. They say that humanity reminds them of what they once were before fear made them weak." She took another step closer. "I did not come here to study a specimen, Captain. I came here because my people are dying. Not in war, but in spirit. We have grown soft, comfortable. We have forgotten what it means to fight for something greater than ourselves. When I heard what humans accomplished against the Krell, I knew I had to see it for myself. I had to understand how a species finds the strength to stand when all reason says they should fall." Marcus felt his throat tighten. "And did you find your answer?" "No," Lyra admitted. "Because the one human I most wished to speak with has been running away from me." The silence that followed was different from before. Softer somehow. The stars beyond the viewport seemed to shine brighter, casting their light across the dome in patterns that shifted with the ship's movement. "I apologize, Your Highness," Marcus said finally. "I made assumptions. I thought you saw us as curiosities. I was wrong. Will you stop running now?" "Yes. Good." The faintest hint of a smile touched her lips. "Then perhaps you could start by explaining how your species developed faster than light travel in less than 2 years after first contact. The scientific community is still baffled." Despite himself, Marcus laughed. "We stole it. Well, we call it rapid technology integration, but basically we stole it from a crashed Krell scout ship." "Of course you did." Lyra's smile grew wider. Only humans would be bold enough to admit that so freely. They stood together in the observation dome as the stars streamed past, and for the first time in weeks, Marcus felt the weight on his shoulders lighten. Perhaps humanity was not special. Perhaps they were just stubborn and reckless and too foolish to know when they were beaten. But perhaps, in a galaxy that had forgotten how to hope, that was exactly what was needed.